In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the NURBS curves and NURBS surfaces to model a water picture. So first, you need to start off with a reference image. Okay, and in Google, you should be able to find an image of a picture. So first, you need to plan out what is the profile of the picture. So in this example, you can see that the picture has a curve that runs down like this. So we need to draw a profile that runs up like that and then curve inward like this. And you have to imagine a center line that cuts through in the center here. And we're going to use the Revolve method to create the surface of the picture. And for the handle, we're going to use the Extrude method to create the handle. So you start off with the profile, and then which is represented by a circle. Then you can draw another curve which you're going to extrude to form the handle. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this. So let's go back to Maya. And first we need to start off from using either the front or the side view. So I'm going to tap the space bar, left mouse click on Maya and change the front view. Okay, I'm going to hold on to Alt, middle mouse click to drag so that the bottom line here is thicker. I'm going to change the background color a little bit, okay, so that I can see my curves a little bit better. So make sure you're in the Curve Surfaces tab. Okay, click on the EP Curve tool or the Edit Point Curve tool, and then you can start to draw. So make sure you start at the center thick line here. You can turn on the Snap tool here, okay, so that when you click, alright, the curve, the first point will snap here. Okay, I'm going to turn it off so that I can resume drawing the profile of the picture. Or you can use Shift X to activate, okay, the snapping temporarily. So right now I've snapped the last 2 points at the end. So once you're done, okay, you can press enter. And if for some reason you make a mistake, you can press backspace, okay, to get rid of the last point that you've planted. Okay, I'm going to press Shift X again and plant and snap the vertex to the center point. So once you're done, you can press enter or you can press Q. Okay, either method works. So right now we have finished our profile. Okay, what we want to do next is to tweak this. Now if I look back at the reference image, I notice that there is a curve around this area. So this looks like a gentle S. So I want to replicate this in my cross section here. So I'm going to click on right mouse click, and you can either choose edit point or control vertex. So I'm going to use edit point first. I'm going to grab these two vertices, press W, and then move it in. And then I need a bigger base, so I'm going to pull these two vertices out. Okay, so if you need a little bit more control, you can switch over to control vertex. You notice that the control vertices, the position is not on the curve itself. Okay, and then sometimes you need to move the curves or move the control vertices around to see how it affects the shape and structure of the curve. Okay, so you might need to move the curves around in order to get the shape that you want. Okay, so this might look a little bit confusing and tricky at first, but once you get a hang of it, it's actually quite easy. Okay, I'm just going to use scale to just flatten these control vertices until they're flat. And notice something interesting about the EP curve. You notice that these two curves, their representation are two square boxes, or rather the first square box and then the second one is a hollow U. Actually it's a U if you see carefully. So this represents the first vertex, and then you will end at the last control vertex here. Okay, so once you are done with the profile, we can start to revolve this. Alright, if for some reason you need to add a little bit more detail, for example, I need to add a couple more points here to make this area a little bit rounder. Okay, so I'm going to right mouse click on the curve itself and use curve point and select the region where I want to insert more detail. If you want to insert more than one point, you hold down the shift key and left mouse click to insert another point. Then you go to click on the curves menu and then you choose the item insert not. So if you right mouse click and go to edit point, you realize that now you have two brand new control points. And if you don't need points, or if you don't need the points, you can just simply delete them. Okay, so this one I need to use the control vertex to control. Okay, I think I need to shift this entire row of vertices inwards, otherwise my picture will be too big. This one, I'm going to lift it a little bit higher. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I'm now ready to apply a surfaces and revolve. So if you click on the option tools, the default axis is the y-axis, and it's going to sweep around 360 degrees. It's going to give 8 segments, and the resulting surface is going to be a NURBS surface. So before I do that, let me just switch this back to object mode, and then I just click on revolve. So now I have the basic shape of my picture. Okay, if I go to perspective view, I can inspect and see. Take note that there's a thick line here. This thick line represents the beginning of the sweep and the end of the sweep. Also, you notice that the curve is still active. So when you move the curve, alright, you might affect the revolve. So because the modeling history is still on. So if you do not want the curve to be affecting the final shape, you can select the picture surface, go to edit, delete by type history. So now if I were to select the curve and move it around, okay, it doesn't affect the shape anymore. So now we have a NURBS surface. We can start to tweak the lip, or the area where you pour the water out. So you can try by going to right mouse click and going to control vertex. Okay, and you can try to observe which of the control vertex you need to select to pull and shape, okay, the rim, or rather the mouth or lip of the picture. You notice that although I selected 2 of these control vertices, I can't really get the shape and the depression that I want. The reason is because I do not have enough edges or isopalms for me to pull out the detail. So let me just undo that. So in order to add in more detail, you have to select something called the isopalm, which in mesh surfaces or mesh objects we know as edges. So NURBS doesn't use edges like in polygon objects. So we have to click on the isopalm and then drag to the region that you want to insert. Notice that we are not inserting anything yet. We are just specifying where we want to insert the extra detail. Hold down to your shift key and left mouse click on the other isopalm and then pull out another extra detail. And I also need another extra isopalm just underneath here. So hold down the shift, click down here. Okay, make sure that you're applying to the outer curve. And then I'm going to click and add another one here. And at the same time, I also want to insert 2 inside. Alright, the picture itself. Okay, right about there. Just roughly estimate. So now we have specified where we want to put the picture. Okay, or rather where we want to put the extra detail. Then you go to surfaces, insert isopalms. So now you have all these extra edges or extra isopalms. You can switch over to control vertex and start to pull out the lip detail. And now you can see, because of the extra detail, I can hold the the mouth of the picture a little bit better. You can also use the rotation tool to maintain the thickness. Okay, and also you can use something called the soft selection tool, so you can create a more gradual region of modification. So if you click on the selection tool and you click on soft selection, you can actually turn it on. And the shortcut key to do that is the B key. Okay, if you press the B key, now the soft selection tool is on, and you can click on this slider here to adjust the fall off radius. So for example, right now I've given it a fall off radius of about 4.79 units. So from a distance of 4.5 units or 4.79 units, it's going to affect that region here. Yellow is the maximum influence. Okay, orange is the least influence, and pink 0 influence. Okay, so I'm going to just use this. And if you use scale, you can also affect the influence the same way as well. And you can also use rotate to create the lip. Okay, so I'm gonna drag a box and select these bunch of vertices here. I think I'm gonna press B to turn off the influence now, and then I'm just gonna gradually pull this down. Maybe press B to turn on the influence again, and then go into the soft selection to reduce the region of influence, and just pull down to create this gentle curve. Okay, once I've done that, I'm ready to create my handle. Okay, I don't need this curve anymore. I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to change to my front view again, but this time I'm going to create the handle curve. So using the EP tool curve, okay, I'm going to start to draw the curve representing the handle. Okay, and I'm going to press enter. Now I'm going to switch back to the reference again, and you're going to see I realized that the curve is actually much smaller. So let's go back to Maya and let's correct this curve. Okay, so since the curve is much smaller, I can actually delete. Okay, I'm going to turn off soft selection and delete away this section. I don't need this, and then I can go back to moving the curve control vertex to roughly match the curvature of the handle. Okay, once you have done that, okay, you can press escape, or you can right mouse click, go to object mode, and the next thing I'm going to create is a circle so that I can extrude the handle out. So click on circle. Okay, I'm going to temporarily select the picture. In fact, let me just rename the picture. I'll call this picture. And put the picture aside. Okay, and then I'm going to switch back to my front view. I'm going to grab and move my circle and position it perpendicular to the curve like this. So next, you want to select the circle first, then shift select the path that you want to extrude. Okay, then use surfaces and choose extrude. Okay, so when you extrude, you notice that it roughly follows the shape of the curve. But let's say if you want this extrusion to follow the path exactly, alright, you can try this method. I'm going to delete this and then try again. So the step is to select the circle first, then shift select the path, go to surfaces, and click on the extrude option box. And at option box, you can activate add path, and also you can try playing with the scale. Scale basically means that when you extrude from one end to the other, the scale will be maintained at 1. But if you change this to 0.2 and you extrude, the beginning will be at 1 and it's going to end at the 0.2 value which I keyed in just now. Okay, so it gives a much nicer shape. Okay, so I like what I see here, so I'm going to select this, go to edit and delete by type and get rid of the history. So now I can position the picture back. Okay, and then I'm going to sculpt this surface until it blends with the surface of the picture. So right mouse click on the surface of the handle and go to hull. Now to select the hull, make sure you do not select the line that runs across here. You want to select the line that runs vertically along this axis, and then you can actually rotate and get the ends to match the orientation of the surface. Okay, and then this hull, I'm just going to move it back a little bit more. Now if for some reason you need an extra more edges, okay, or isopalms, you can insert more isopalm. So in this case, I'm going to click and drag another section here. Okay, and also I want to insert another section here below. So shift, I'm going to click and then add another isopalm here. Then go to surfaces, insert isopalms. And then I'm going to back to my hull. I'm going to select this hull and then I'm going to use scale to scale it up. So I have the gradual effect. I'm going to do the same for the bottom and then just put it in slightly. Now you can switch to control vertex and then you can sculpt individual control vertices so that it matches the surface of the vase a little bit better. Okay, like this. Okay, one thing you might notice is that look at the number of segments here. Okay, if it doesn't appear smooth, okay, the benefit about NURBS is that you can rebuild the surface again. So obviously the vertical lines that runs across here is not enough, or we call this the V lines. Okay, the V isopalms. Now the isopalms that runs across this direction, this would be the U isopalm. So go to surfaces, you can actually use rebuild. Now let's take a look at rebuild. Okay, let's use the default values first and click on rebuild and see whether this improves the look of our handle. Okay, it seems to be a little bit better, however it destroyed the detail that we added here previously. So let me just undo that, and then I'm going to go to surfaces again and click on rebuild. I'm just going to add a very high value, probably 20 by 20, and I click on rebuild and see what happens. It managed to maintain the edit which I did here, and the result is much smoother. Okay, so but in reality we don't really need so many segments in the U direction, or rather the V direction. So you can actually rebuild it again, and I'm just going to reduce this to be about 10 and rebuild again. Okay, so now there are less sections. Okay, but it still looks okay. So I think I've gotten rid of the loops around here instead. Okay, let me do one more rebuild. Okay, let's try 10, 10 and rebuild again. So I expect these lines here to be less. Yeah. Okay, so this looks good to me. And when you are done, you can parent the handle to the picture main body. So select the child, shift select the parent, and then press P. Okay, so now if you look at the outliner, okay, right now the picture is the parent of the handle. Now for NURBS surfaces, you can't combine them or merge them like polygon objects in Maya. So you can either group them or, in this case, parent them. So now the picture main body is the parent. So this is how you model a picture using NURBS surfaces in Maya.